Guys, we really need to talk about what is going on between Justin Bieber, Diddy, and Usher. Because the more you line up the clips, the lawsuits, and Justin's own choices, the harder it is to pretend this is just old gossip. Right now, Diddy is sitting in a federal prison. TMZ already showed him at Fort Dix reporting for work in the media library, pushing a cart of DVDs and religious books like any other inmate. At the same time, Justin's team had to put out a statement saying he is not one of Diddy's victims, but in that same sentence they acknowledged that there are real victims who deserve justice. So if Justin is saying he wasn't harmed directly, why has he cut off Usher, refused to share a stage with him, and walked away from the whole machine that made him a superstar?
Diddy is just a working class stiff while he's at Fort Dix.
So when you're at a prison and somebody says, you read any good books lately, Diddy is the answer.
He's the guy to go to because we got video of him at Fort Dix reporting for work in the library where he is making recommendations and handing out different movies and books for his fellow inmates.
I'm really fascinated just by the library
But
itself.
you're seeing him here. This is him reporting to work, taking off his jacket, taking off his scarf, and settling in for a day on the job.
It looks like a public school library.
Yeah.
It's
This was the chapel, and this is the media library in the chapel, which is where Diddy's currently working. He's working in a Life Connections program, which is an 18-month program that helps rehab people, get them closer to spirituality, to charity groups, and with that, it will shorten his sentence. But in this media library, he helps inmates with religious material, rent out movies, that kind of stuff. You see him pushing a
really
cart
interesting.
with a TV on it.
Yeah, I mean, he was in the laundry room when he first got there.
Yeah,
this got to be
his first
This got to
assignment.
be a promotion.
Yeah.
It feels like a promotion. It feels like maybe he tried the lunchroom and put in a request for something different.
Yeah, it does
I mean,
believe
he is a
it does
media
sound like
mogul.
he used maybe possibly some connections to get a better job.
Let's start with Diddy's situation, because that's the backdrop for everything. Diddy has been hit with multiple lawsuits and criminal charges that describe a pattern going back years. One of the big civil cases laid out detailed stories about drugging, coercion, and so-called freakoff parties. Then came the federal case. He was eventually convicted of transportation for the purposes of prostitution, even though he beat the most serious trafficking counts. Either way, he's not flying private jets anymore. He's clocking in at the prison library trying to shave time off his sentence by working in a spirituality and rehabilitation program. And the second those charges went public, the internet went digging through every clip of Diddy around younger artists. Old footage of him with teenage Justin started trending again, and people began stitching everything together into one big narrative.
He said he saw Justin Bieber on this tape and he appeared to be underage during this time. He also saw Usher on these tapes and Usher definitely appeared to be underage. And this one gave me the chills because we've heard that Usher is the one that sent Justin Bieber to Diddy. Courtney Burgess sat down with the Too Strong channel here on YouTube and started naming some of the celebrities that he saw on these tapes.
Were kids involved in these parties that you can verify from looking at the tapes?
If Justin Bieber was older than he's supposed to have been, yes. If Usher was older, well, Usher was definitely young.
Okay.
You understand? It showed the part with his, the blood was all in his bed. You understand? It looked like they came home from a event, a party or something.
Went on to explain how Danny Boy was also in one of these videos with Mary J. Blige and Diddy together. And Danny Boy admitted when he was 15 that Mary J. Blige flew him out to New York and he slept with her while he was underage.
Mary J.
Danny Boy, okay.
You know what Danny Boy is?
I heard that before. I don't, I've been so far away from hip hop, I forgot, but I have heard that name, Danny Boy.
Danny Boy back then, he looked like he was about 16. They both was about.
He also claimed that Jaden Smith, Will Smith's son, were in these videos, and he also said that there was photographs and videos of Diddy eating off of young girls.
Pictures or images of any of this stuff?
Yeah, I got Justin Bieber, Will Smith's son, whatever his name is. Other females on the table, they was young. He was eating off them. A lot of entertainments. And then I got calls from certain people wanting to get the tape out of my hand. And I said, I don't know what you're talking about.
To see why Justin is such a big part of this story, we have to rewind to his origin. Justin was a kid from Stratford, Ontario, singing covers on YouTube. A homemade video of One Time started blowing up, and that's when the industry stepped in. Scooter Braun found him online, played the clips for Usher, and suddenly this 13-year-old Canadian kid was flying to Atlanta. L.A. Reid and the label smelled the next big thing, and Justin got signed. On paper, it sounded perfect. Usher knew what it was like to be a teen star. He had his own story of being groomed for success. He'd already survived the 90s and early 2000s and understood the business. But Usher also had a history with Diddy that is a lot more complicated than the old Big Brother narrative. In interviews, Usher has talked about being sent to live with Diddy when he was a young teenager. He's joked about Puffy Flavor Camp. He describes going to New York, staying at Diddy's place, and seeing things he didn't even understand at that age. When he tells it, the room is full of adults, alcohol, sex, energy, and he's just a kid trying to soak up the lifestyle. At one point, he flat out says that, as a father, he would never send his own son to that situation. That quote hits very differently when you remember he later sent Justin straight into that same orbit.
That's the crazy thing. Now, that was L.A. Reid's idea, right? We're sending you over to something called Puffy Flavor Camp.
There you go.
To learn
Flavor Camp.
Yeah,
Flavor
that's
Camp.
what it was called. And you're going to go to Puff Daddy's. He's going
In the 90s, do you understand what that's like?
Puffy's place was like just filled with chicks and orgying like nonstop, right?
No, not really. I
Come
mean,
on.
but hey, it was curious. I got a chance to see some things.
Yeah, but you were 13. What were you seeing?
I went there to see the lifestyle.
Right.
And I saw it. And it was but I don't know if I could indulge and understand what I was even looking at. It was pretty wild.
So nobody tried to, some woman didn't come along.
I didn't say that.
Okay.
I didn't say that. What I did say is that there were very curious things taking place. And I didn't necessarily understand it.
Biggie Smalls was there.
Biggie Smalls was there. Lil' Kim, Craig Mack.
All these people are hanging around.
Yeah, man. Faith Evans.
And your parents
Jodeci,
were
Mary
okay?
J. Blige. They didn't know nothing about this shit.
Oh.
I was having a good time. You know what I mean?
Does he have you doing any chores? Are you doing dishes at all? I mean, to keep you humble somewhat? Or are you just like, can you stay up till 4 in the morning with them and party?
I mean, I could. I actually stayed up longer than them.
And do you have money? What's going on?
I mean, I had like per diem.
Yeah.
I had like,
what
like
a
living.
life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
14 years old. You're a dad now. Would you ever send your kid to Puffy Camp?
Hell no.
One of the most disturbing time capsules is that old interview where Diddy talks about having custody of Justin for 48 hours. He tells the host that Justin is with him and his friend, having the time of their lives. He compares it to the movie 48 HRs, says it's a 15-year-old's dream, and hints that he can't even describe what they're doing. Back when it aired, people mostly laughed it off as Diddy being Diddy. Now, after hearing witnesses talk about freakoff parties, seeing photos from raids showing suitcases of lingerie, rows of baby oil, and giant bags of lubricant, nobody is laughing. When you rewatch that 48 hours clip with that context in mind, it stops feeling like a goofy mentor flex and starts to feel like something else entirely. We also have the wave of interviews from people who say they were close to Diddy's circle. Some of them claim there were tapes of celebrities and underage teenagers in compromising situations. Names like Justin, Usher, and even Jaden Smith get thrown around. That doesn't mean every detail is true. A lot of it is one person's word in a YouTube interview or a line in a civil complaint. But it's enough to keep fans asking what actually went on behind the scenes. This is where we have to be really clear. We can say that these allegations exist, we can say they were mentioned in lawsuits or interviews, and we can quote those sources. That's different from saying, as a fact, that Justin was abused by Diddy. Justin's own rep has said he is not one of Diddy's victims. At the same time, that same statement emphasizes that other people genuinely were harmed and deserve justice. So Justin is trying to draw a line. He's not claiming the role of victim, but he is acknowledging that something deeply wrong happened around him.
And a shocking amount of high-powered rifles. These never-before-seen pictures were taken by police during the raids of the music star's homes. Police photographed a collection of lingerie, 200 bottles of baby oil, and 900 bottles of lubricant as we see for the first time what some of those freakoffs looked like. Hotel room furniture covered in sheets and towels. In response to the large collection of freakoff supplies, Diddy's defense attorney argued last week his star client likes to buy in bulk like any other American.
They've said on day one to the jury, we have flight records that prove that Sean Combs and his company were transporting these male escorts, were transporting women like Cassie and Jane across state lines for the purpose of sex that they did not want to engage.
Now let's look at Justin's own words about his childhood in the industry. In an Apple Music interview that resurfaced, Justin opens up about how brutal it was to be that young and that famous. He talks about people telling him they loved him and then turning their backs in a second. He admits that he still feels shame about things that were done to him or around him. He breaks down in tears talking about wanting to protect his little sister and other kids from going through what he went through. He says he doesn't wish his experience on anyone. He doesn't say Diddy did this or Usher did that. But you can hear a man who feels used, abandoned, and guilty, even though he was the child in the room.
Being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So, yeah, it's hard because I want her to know that, she can count on me. But at the end of the day, I'm never going to force myself to be in a relationship with her. It has to be natural, right? So I just kind of, let her do her thing, and if she ever needs me, I'm gonna be here for her. But yeah, just protecting those moments because people take for granted encounters and yeah. So yeah, I just want to protect her, I don't want her to lose it. I don't want her to, go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody. So, yeah, if she ever needs me, I'm just a call away.
There's also the legal deposition where a lawyer asks Justin about Usher's role in his career. You would expect the usual story. Usher discovered me, he changed my life. Instead, Justin shrugs it off. He says he was found on YouTube and even calls himself detrimental to his own career. His attorney jumps in to push back on the question, which makes the whole exchange even more tense. That is not how people normally talk about the mentor who supposedly launched them. It feels like someone who doesn't want to give that credit anymore, or maybe someone who is still angry about what came with that relationship. On social media, the distance got even louder. Fans noticed that Justin unfollowed Usher. He didn't make a statement. He didn't post a long caption explaining why. It was quiet. And it happened while Diddy was under intense legal fire and people were resurfacing every clip of Justin and Diddy together. When you line up the timing, it looks less like an accident and more like a boundary.
You get career. Do you know Raymond Usher the Fourth?
No.
Do you know an individual, an entertainer by the name of Usher?
Yeah, Usher. That sounds familiar.
Isn't it true that Usher was instrumental in starting your career?
What does that have to do with this litigation, Mr. DeKalb? This is just you trying to harass the client.
Before we came back here, you had asked me.
She's going to let her read back the question. Thank you for your memory. Is it true that Usher was very instrumental in starting your career?
That was the last question. I was found on YouTube. I think that I was detrimental to my own career.
Justin Bieber, is continuing the purge. He has now moved to unfollow Usher, okay, his original mentor. So this is a very big story. And the reason why we should discuss this and we should not diminish what is happening, it's not celebrity drama. This is actually the fall of Babylon that we are witnessing, Hollywood Babylon, that is. Of course, many people, I believe, are accurately assuming that this has something to do, one element has to do with the Diddy lawsuit. A lot of revelations were made in the Diddy lawsuit. So I'm going to start this by saying allegedly, Okay, obviously, he has not yet been convicted of everything, but I knew that he was going to get arrested because after reading through this lawsuit, there were just so many pictures, way too many descriptions. He had hours of video footage proving his claims. I'm referring to the person who initially filed this, Rodney Lil Rod, a producer, who went into great detail, laborious effort to basically describe almost a homosexual ring in which people were being drugged at various Diddy parties. But he describes how essentially him being a young producer, they tried to initiate him into homosexuality. And I'm going to read this directly from a lawsuit. It says, quote, Mr. Combs, that's Diddy, used access to Stevie J and his knowledge that the producer, Mr. Jones, admired Stevie J to groom and enticed Mr. Jones to engage in homosexuality.
Then came the Super Bowl halftime show. Usher was announced as the headliner. Immediately, everyone assumed Justin would be a surprise guest. Their history, their hits, the nostalgia factor, it seemed obvious. But when the show happened, Usher brought out Alicia Keys, Lil Jon, Ludacris, and others. No Justin. Later, in a radio interview, Usher said they had spoken, and Justin wanted to tell a different story right now. He framed it as no hard feelings, just timing. From the outside, though, it fits the same pattern. Justin isn't interested in standing next to Usher on the biggest stage in the world at the exact moment questions about his past around Diddy are louder than ever. That's not a scheduling issue. That looks like a decision.
We did have a brief conversation.
Here's why Justin Bieber didn't perform with Usher at the 2024 Super Bowl halftime show. While Usher brought the house down during his headlining gig, many were wondering why his protege Justin Bieber didn't make a cameo appearance alongside fellow guests Alicia Keys, Her, will.i.am, Lil Jon, and Ludacris. Now Usher explains why JB ultimately decided against hitting the biggest stage in the world in an interview with The Breakfast Club.
You know, I think that it might have been the fact that he was just, you know, wanting to tell a different story right now, and I understand that. But we did have a brief conversation, and you know, we're gonna do something else in the future. But there's no love lost or anything like that. I think that it's a lot of pressure for the Super Bowl, obviously, for me to put together a show. So I reached out to everybody. Justin wasn't the only person that I actually spoke to about doing the Super Bowl, but the moment was maybe for later.
While all of this is happening, Diddy's legal troubles keep growing. New investigations open. More plaintiffs file civil suits. Former associates go on camera describing situations that sound like a mix of cult, crime ring, and high-end nightclub. Federal agents raid homes and show what they say are the physical tools of those parties. Stacks of cash, weapons, rows of oils and products. Even if you strip out every bit of internet exaggeration, there's more than enough in those official documents to understand why any former child star in his orbit might be haunted by what they saw.
I don't think he's coming back out anytime soon. I'm scared that the security will pull out. I'll fucking run it. I do feel bad, sorry for him. We're all trying to bombard. Oh my god, I've got a vehicle to me.
Justin Bieber's rep is breaking their silence on recent rumors regarding drug use. A rep for the singer, who shares 6-month-old son Jack Blues Bieber with wife Hailey Bieber, is firing back at recent claims that Justin has been using hard drugs. His rep tells TMZ on February 23rd that it's, quote, absolutely not true. His team adds that it's been a very transformative year for Justin as he, quote, ended several close friendships and business relationships that no longer served him. As Justin's 31st birthday approaches on March 1st, he's focused on his family and his music, not speculation about his health, which his rep calls, quote, exhausting and pitiful, and shows that despite the obvious truth, people are committed to keeping negative, salacious, harmful narratives alive.
I know, and people know, that was around in that time that Puff and Usher did have a situation. And that situation led Usher to the hospital. Now I let Usher explain that to y'all. I let Usher tell that story. But how dare you say a man that groomed you You gonna give him a pass. Bruh, you know I know. Let me reframe you on something. Remember Usher? We was at the Swiss Hotel. Puff had Kim in the room. Had one of Keith Sweat's baby mothers in the big room outside the master bedroom. He came outside in his robe. She gave him a fellatio right there. His back was turned to me. She gave him a fellatio. You knocked on the door. I came and opened the door for you. Puff went in the room. You came in the room and kissed that girl dead in her mouth. Now I'm telling that because you taking up for somebody that you know and a lot of more people know didn't do you right when you was at Diddy camp.
On top of the legal noise, Justin's own mental health has been a constant concern. Fans have seen him post erratic photos and captions. There were rumors of a relapse into hard drug use, which his rep denied strongly, calling the speculation exhausting and pitiful, and saying he's had a transformative year, cutting off relationships that no longer serve him. Now, that language, ending old friendships, walking away from old business ties, lines up perfectly with what we're seeing publicly with Usher and the larger circle around Diddy. So what does all of this add up to? We have a kid who was thrown into the most powerful rooms in music before he could drive. We have a mentor who once lived with Diddy as a teenager and later sent his own protege into that same environment. We have a mogul now sitting in prison, facing investigations on multiple fronts. We have witnesses and lawsuits describing a world of parties and tapes that sound like a nightmare. And we have Justin, as an adult, stepping back from all of it, refusing to share stages, quietly unfollowing people, and talking through tears about things he still can't fully say out loud. The exact details of what Justin personally went through are still unclear. He has denied being one of Diddy's victims, and that denial matters. At the same time, his actions suggest that whatever he saw and whatever he experienced in that system was bad enough that he doesn't want any connection to it now. He gave up one of the biggest pop careers of all time and traded it for something a lot quieter, a family, a child, and studio time on his own terms. So, I want to hear from you. Do you think Justin is just trying to protect his peace and his family now, after seeing how ugly the industry can get behind the scenes? Do you think there's more he's not saying about what happened with Diddy and Usher? Or do you think the internet has taken a handful of disturbing clips and built an entire story that isn't really there? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I read what you guys write, and I'm curious where you land on this. And if you want more deep dives where we actually look at the interviews, the lawsuits, and the receipts instead of just repeating rumors, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one.